Hello, welcome to class. I am Professor Amy Keely, and I am really excited to have you in my class. And I know that there is always an online component to classes now, even if you're in face-to-face. So I wanted to make this podcast available to both the face-to-face classes and the online classes through D2L, because some people obviously have different ways they like to hear the message. And I always am a big believer that you should look at all the different ways that things are being communicated to you, whether it's in writing or it's verbally or it's visually, either way. So I wanted to take this moment to go through my course policies. While I am fun loving, I'm very, a little silly sometimes. I am very interested in what students are doing, but I have to be honest and say that my course policies are incredibly strict. And I wanted to explain why they're strict, because you can read it on the page. I explain it very thoroughly about why I'm very strict. But I also wanted to personalize it and just say that I've had people, whether it's my parents who are really, really strict, or instructors in my own academic career that were very, very strict. But especially bosses that were incredibly strict. And as you move up the chain of command, while it looks like it's very glamorous and you're working for the CEO and you may see people on the golf course, it is unforgiving and it is unrelentless in business. And I don't care if you're working for a company, small or large. I've worked for both Fortune 500 companies and small businesses, or if you are owning your own business. And it's especially infinitely more difficult if it's your own business. So it's really important in my classes because I know what it takes to be successful in the business world. As I mentioned, I give out my own personal information. I'm an award-winning marketer. I've won an American Marketing Association award. I've won client awards. I've won $20 million accounts in corporations. So in order to be that successful, I've had to learn along the way. And I want to be able to, have my students come back, as I have students that I work with from 10 years ago. I want to have students come back and share the story. So please keep me in mind as you are successful in your career. I would love to hear where your success has gone and be that person that's instrumental in your growth or who pushed you harder than you thought before. Because part of my success, like I said, is having people in my life who pushed me harder than I have ever thought I could possibly go. And I am a much better business person for those experiences. So that's why I bring them to my classroom. Is I want you to not just learn the technical terms that are in the textbook, but I want you to learn the critical skills that are necessary in business. I come from the workforce management industry, so I work very closely with employers that are looking for workers, and I hear what they complain about a lot. And so a lot of what my course policies and your other, professors' course policies are designed to create a setting in college where all the things that you've learned in high school are great, but they are not going to make you successful in college in your career. So you have to almost relearn how to think, how to focus, how to prepare, how to strategize your success in this course, because it will be the bedrock of what it takes to be successful in the business world. So let's go through the course policies, but I want to kind of give you an overview so that you kind of understand where I'm coming from. So diving in to my course policies again, I would highly recommend that you pause this audio podcast and go print out your syllabus. It's going to be to your success to have your syllabus on hand. So if you have a notebook, throw it in a notebook. If you want to, staple it and put it on a board in front of you, wherever your work desk is at, so that you have them on hand. That way you can answer sometimes your own questions by going back and looking at my course policies. But in the first week, there is a syllabus acknowledgement form. The idea behind this is that you're already bound to my course policies by just, any professor at LCC. Our course policies overrule anything that's in D2L. And so always make sure that you communicate with your instructor if there's something in D2L that doesn't match the course syllabus, because we do have a lot of courses that we're teaching. But we always fall back to our course policies, which is why I'm taking this extra step of reading my course policies in a podcast. so that it kind of adds to what you have in front of you. So pause it, print it out, whatever you need. But there's an acknowledgement form that basically it is the equivalent to a contract in the business world, an employment contract. When you sign any contract, you are acknowledging that you have read and that you have accepted the terms of that contract. And that's what I'm asking you to do with the course syllabus acknowledgement form. As I've said in my course policy, if you don't sign it and you don't upload it into D2L, I reserve the right to not grade your papers. And I know that sounds really harsh. But again, my class is not designed to just teach you the textbook and the terms that are in the textbook. It's designed to teach you the skills that are going to be successful in the business world. So you might as well get used to doing employment contracts and what is obligated in them. So please make sure it's something very simple, that you have read through this, listened to the podcast, that you acknowledge and have and agree to what you've read, and upload it into D2L. You'll need to do that in your first week, although I will give you to the end of class to do it, but it needs to be done. So the second component to the course policy is about emails. Again, I mentioned I teach a lot of different classes, as do your professors. So, and we may teach the same course with just different CRN numbers. So please make sure in your subject line that you put your course name. So BUSN 118 for Introduction to Business, or MKTG 200 if it's in a Principles of Marketing class. Whatever the class name is, please make sure that you put the number in there, or even the class name, Principles of Marketing, that's fine. But also put your CRN number in there, so I know what section of those classes that you are in. Again, we are all, as professors, teaching multiple classes, and I put in my course policy, if you don't put it in the subject line, it may take me longer to respond to you because I have to figure out what class you're in. So please make sure that you put that number in. And I've given you examples of what I mean in the actual syllabus. Also, during the class, unless you're in my face-to-face class, but even if you're in my face-to-face class in D2L, I always communicate through announcements. So you should get into a new habit, if you're not in it already, of checking your D2L announcements every day. We have different seasons in the state of Michigan. So we have power outages sometimes in the summer or spring. We have winter and snow in the winter season. So there's always reasons why school may be closed. I might be doing extra credit. There might be an upcoming event that I think that might, benefit you in your career, whatever. So please make sure that you are checking your D2 announcements daily and in the morning, preferably, so that you get the most current information as quickly as possible. Next, reading expectations. I know that a lot of people don't want to pay for the textbooks, and on some levels, I get it. I paid $300 for my textbooks when I was going through school as well, and I get that. We do provide PowerPoint presentations in the courses, but please do not in any way think that that can replace a textbook. It cannot. So you are required to purchase the textbook that we require in the class, and you're expected to read them. I know many people coming out of high school today, or even in the business world, have gotten out of the habit of reading. We all have shorter attention spans for social media, Twitter with 140 characters or 240 characters now. But part of what this class is teaching you, and what college is teaching you, that in order to be successful in the business world, you have to learn how to read and critically read. You have to, or you will miss details, and it can cost you a job. It can cost you a client. It can get you fired. So it's really important that you take the time and you read the textbook, and that you understand the terms. If you have to highlight, the online textbooks have features for you to be able to highlight or underline the online versions of it. So please make sure that you are reading the textbooks and the PowerPoint presentations, which are just a highlight of the actual textbook, but it does not include the detail. You'll also miss case studies that might be in the textbook as well. So if you have any problems with your textbook, please make sure that you reach out to me, reach out to the library, reach out to the bookstore to make sure that you get the textbook on time. You do not need to depend on me to get the textbook. I've given you the details of the textbook in the syllabus and in D2L. So you have many other resources besides me, but if you need to, you can reach out to me and I'm happy to help you, but you absolutely have to have it. So make sure that you look for that. My writing expectations. This becomes really important because I'm not just a business person and I'm not just a marketing professional. I have an English major through the University of Michigan. And what does that mean? That means I have built the success of my career on writing. Writing, in my opinion, is absolutely foundationally important in your business career because you need to be able to be very clear when you're writing emails, especially those to your boss, your colleagues, your teammates, your clients. And you also need to be very clear when you're writing an analysis of a situation, anything that you're writing. And especially if you're in sales or marketing, you need to write to be persuasive. So writing becomes foundational in marketing as it is in business. So if you struggle with writing, I would highly recommend that you use your tools in your toolbox around you, which means go to the LCC library, go to the LCC writing desk or writing center, or go to your LCC success coach who can get you to the library or to the writing center. It becomes important in this class that you understand how to critically think and critically write. So I am writing and reading your papers, not just for the topic of whatever it is that the question is regarding to business or marketing, but I am also looking for grammar, sentence structure, punctuation, as well as that you are using the terms that you've just learned in the book. So as I will detail later on under communication, I'm expecting that you learn to use your Microsoft Word or your Google Docs. If you've written something wrong, you'll see little blue lines underneath there or red lines or green lines. Those mean something. That is Microsoft or Google telling you that there's something either in the word, the phrase, or the sentence that is wrong and incorrect. And if you click, usually it will pop up what the answer is. So there is no excuse for poor writing. So please make sure that you are using your tools around you. And then also, again, using the LCC Writing Center. You don't have to go there in person. You can go there via WebEx. Why is that important? So if you don't know how to start or answer a question, go to the LCC Writing Desk. They can help you look at the question and how to figure out how to answer it. If you struggle with punctuation and grammar, there are plenty of different resources around you. So you can go to the writing desk and send them your paper and say, can you please help me proof this? That's how you use the tools around you to make sure that what you submit is as perfect as you can possibly make it. Again, why is that important? It's important to me to teach you that when you submit something to a CEO, when you submit something to your boss, and when you submit something to your client, there is no room for error. In most cases, it's the only time you're going to get a chance to do that. And you always want to make a best impression, especially if you're trying to win new business or you're trying to move up the chain of command. It's absolutely critical. So I'm looking for those when I am reading your answers and or your papers. Word count. All of my assignments, whether it's the assignments or your D2L questions, your discussion questions, all of them have word counts. Why? If you write with 1, 2, 3 sentences, you have not fully answered the question. So I have word counts to show you that you have to spend the time thinking about your answer in order to be able to get a good grade. So I do check for word count. So please don't think that if I notice, it looks like a sentence or a paragraph is too short or a response is too short, that I don't copy it, put it in my Microsoft Word document, check the word count down at the bottom, and if it doesn't meet the minimum requirements, I mark you down for it. So please make sure that you're using Microsoft Word when you write your answers or Google Docs and use the word count feature to make sure that you know what the word count is before you actually copy it into D2L or wherever you're putting it to submit it to me as part of the assignment. So that's what I expect. Now, if you get stuck, you're going to use your critical thinking skills. And these are the skills I'm trying to teach you that you need to use in business. Always ask yourself who, what, where, why, and how. Those simple questions. So who did it? What did they do? Where do they need to do it? When did they do it? Why did they do it? Or how did they do it? All those types of questions that you start asking using those formative questions can help you add more words and more thoughts to your answer. So please make sure that you take the time to ask yourself those questions when you get stuck, or again, go to the LCC library or writing center and ask them for help, because I'm trying to make sure that you're using your critical thinking skills that you will need in the business world. The next one is APA formatting. This becomes very confusing for people, so I want to break it down. Most students have learned MLA. MLA and APA are pretty much the same in formatting. APA is just something that if you're going to go on to MSU or Northwoods or the University of Michigan, in the business programs, they always require APA. In your more humanities programs like English, philosophy, anthropology, whatever papers you're writing, they are most likely going to use MLA, and most students learn MLA in high school. But in business schools, they require APA. So I have uploaded a worksheet. It's a simple cheat sheet to tell you what the difference between APA and MLA is. So I do mark down if you're not using APA formatting. So please make sure that you understand when I'm asking a question that requires limited APA formatting versus a paper that requires full APA formatting. I will make it clear in the assignment, which is what I require. Usually if I'm doing this sort of abridged APA because it's a question, I'm just going to require that you use it for sourcing to make sure that you're sourcing your information correctly. I won't require the full APA version, but I've given you the links on using APA and how to do it. And that's what I'm expecting. Now, why do I do that? I do that because and I'll try to see if I can upload some of my PowerPoint presentations from the past or the RFPs that I've done where I source all the information for my clients. So if I'm going to the Department of Labor or the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I will put it down at the bottom, just as I learned in APA formatting, so that my client knows that the information I'm giving them is from the government or from a trusted, information source, so that that I'm backing up my statements with more credible data that helps my boss, whomever I'm sending it to, clients, understand that my information that I'm giving them is from experts, not just myself. And also APA is for your subheadings. So I use subheadings when I'm writing request for proposals. I use subheadings when I'm writing even emails sometimes that are a little bit longer. So it's a way of being able to break up your document. So when you are writing an answer, for example, and it has multiple questions, I'm expecting that instead of you rewriting the question, because I don't need to know what the question is, I already know what it is. I want you to take keywords out of that question and form a subheading with it. So that's what I'm expecting. On some of these assignments, all I may need is just your name at the very top of the assignment. I may not need it in the individual assignment. So again, please make sure you read the instructions for every assignment so that you know how to be able to use APA properly, but I am grading for it. Next is sourcing in your assignment. So going along with APA. So I do require in an assignment, so the full assignment, and there may be several questions underneath that assignment, but within that assignment, I'm expecting that you use 2 third-party sources. So would highly recommend that you go to the LCC library and start using some of the databases for looking through articles or peer-reviewed journals or whatever it is that you want to use. But bloggers are not experts. I know that may come as a shock. Many of them may portray themselves as experts, but unless it's a peer-reviewed journal or it's coming from a credible source, and even credible sources these days are not as credible. So it becomes really important because you want to make sure that you understand, especially as a student, that you're not an expert. So when you make a statement of the sky is blue, that's great, but who are you to say that? So it becomes important that you use let's say a climate scientist or somebody who can explain the elements and how, refraction off of sunlight happens or whatever, so that you can say the sky is blue. And according to such and such and such an expert, they also say the sky is blue because of blah, blah, blah. That expert gives you more credibility. So please make sure that you're using a minimum of 2 third-party sources, and one of those can be your textbook. But this becomes really important because some of the questions will say, please go out and research a company. I will grade you down if you do not source Apple, General Motors, or any of these companies that you pick, because the information that you're providing could not possibly come from your own mind. Somebody in an article, a YouTube video, a blog post that you might have seen, an article that was written, someone, Yahoo Finance, I don't care where you got that information, but it's not your own. So you must always source. And that becomes important because at some point, sometime in the future, you will be writing your own content as an expert out in the business world. And how would you feel if someone used something that was unique that you observed or that you found or that you analyzed and they used it as your own and they didn't cite you for it? So anytime you use information from anybody else outside your own person, then you need to source where you found that information. It ties right into the next topic. If you do that, and there are checkers out there for originality, meaning how much of what you've written is original to you versus how much is checking the web to know that you copied it from something else and didn't source it. That falls under plagiarism. So let me be very clear because this falls into something else that's a hot button for me. Plagiarism is something that you use from someone else. So you must source anything that does not come from you personally. It's not your own idea. It's not your own thoughts. If it comes from someone else on a TV show, in an article, in a documentary, wherever you heard it, Yahoo News, an article in Time Magazine, a peer-reviewed journal, you must source it or you are plagiarizing someone's work. So I have in the syllabus, I have provided links to the LCC Student Code of Conduct for plagiarism. It can cost you your career at LCC. LCC can dismiss you as a student if you are caught plagiarizing. Here's how important plagiarism is. The president of Harvard University had to resign because it was found out that in some of her PhD papers, she plagiarized. That's how serious plagiarism is because it falls under copyright laws. So please, please, please make sure you are sourcing all of the information and materials that you are using in your answers, in your discussion questions, or your papers. If you didn't create it and it wasn't of your own idea, and there's, again, it has to be your own, or you will be marked down for it, most specifically, and you may be reported to the Office of Student Compliance if plagiarism is found. So, and plagiarism becomes a real issue a little bit further down, but I will talk about, again, make sure that you understand plagiarism. I'm a real stickler on it because especially if you are going into the business world, but most specifically, if you're going on to a 4-year college, they are even stricter than I am. So we all have the same rules and regulations around plagiarism. So please make sure that you adhere to that. And this becomes a really critical question when it comes to, or point to note, when it comes to artificial intelligence, or AI, like ChatGPT. At no point in my classroom can you use AI unless it is an assignment that specifically requests that you go out and use AI. And I get it. Marketing and business use AI all the time. That's in the professional world. But I will be honest, and I've given you a link to people who are being fired for using AI. And I would also like to point out that most people don't think about this, but I do consider it carefully. We are training AI to do our jobs for us. At some point, you will not have a job when you leave college because they are going to begin using AI for everything if they haven't already. The mass layoffs in the tech center or the tech industry, like Google and other, software providers, because AI is now doing the work of a tech person. So every time you use AI, whether it's in this class, in school, or in your professional career, just remind yourself you are training your replacement. So it's really important that you understand that. Secondly, you are committing double plagiarism if you use AI. So the first plagiarism is that, what did I say earlier about sourcing? If you didn't write it, it belongs to someone else. And AI is an entity that is not you. It's also arguably a sentient being at this point, which means it has its own thoughts, or it's learning to have its own thoughts. That means it is not you writing your papers or your answers, and it falls under plagiarism if you do not source all your sources. And I am unequivocally saying, so make sure it's clear, you cannot use and or source ChatGPT or any other AI in my class. You will be given zeros for it because I consider it to be plagiarism. Because if you didn't create it and you didn't write it, it's not your thoughts. And I don't care if it's your idea. I don't care about anything. No AI in my classroom. Why? Because I'm also training you if you're going to go on to a four-year college. They actually have very strict no AI policies. So I'm training you if you're transferring. And if you're going into the business world, I'm training you so you don't lose your job. So as I said earlier, I am an English major. I don't even need an AI checker to know when you've used AI. And I have sent students cheating, because I consider AI to be cheating if you didn't do the work yourself, to the Office of Student Compliance. Now, I don't want to do that, but that's how serious I take AI and using AI. You are in a learning environment designed to teach you critical thinking. And that means learning to write yourself and not using another source to write for you. So do not use AI in any of your answers or discussion questions. And again, please make sure you read the syllabus and the links that I've shown you of people who've lost their job in the business world for using it. Next one is email responses. So if you email me through D2L, there might be a slight delay, but I will usually get your emails fairly quickly. You can also email me directly through my email address, which I provided in the syllabus, but I have 24 to 48 business hours to respond. Business hours are not weekends. Business hours are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So this is why I say earlier about time management and making sure that you use your time wisely. If you wait until Saturday or Sunday to do your work that's due on Sunday at 11:59 p.m., I do not have to answer your questions, technically. Now, will I? Most likely, because I want to see my students succeed, but I don't have to. And I may have obligations, or I may be on vacation on a weekend that I can't actually answer your questions. So you should always do your work early, knowing that if you get stuck, you have time to ask me or somebody at the LCC help desk or your success coach or the writing center, somebody you can ask a question to. Because if you ask, I have 24 to 48 hours to turn around, and the assignment date might already be gone, or you may miss turning in an assignment because you didn't get an answer that you needed to have to complete it. So please make sure you look at time management and that you understand my email response timeline, and you don't wait to the last minute. So technology in the classroom is the next topic. So this is specifically for my face-to-face classes, but you should also consider this if you're taking your face-to-face classes. But online, it's going to be obviously a little bit more difficult because you are using technology. But I want you to understand what the limitations of technology. So you can use smartphones and computers for in-class activities. And if you use it excessively to the point where you're not paying attention, you can lose points. Now, why does that matter? Again, I told you earlier, I come from the workforce management staffing industry. That's all I do is hear employers complain about the people that are coming to work for them because they're missing skills they absolutely need. If your face is in a phone or if your face is in a computer and you are not making eye contact, then you can risk losing your job, losing a client. A lot of things can happen. So I've made a list of the workplace skills that your employers are expecting from you, which includes active listening. And to me, active listening isn't just what words are coming out of someone's mouth. It's also the nonverbal communication. So you can't know what somebody's saying to you unless you're looking at them. And I will tell you, 70% of what I listen to when someone's talking to me isn't coming out of their mouth. It's their body language. I can learn a lot about somebody by looking around their office. So active listening isn't just listening. It's also the nonverbal cues that you're getting from someone. Adaptability. How quickly are you able to respond and be flexible? That's critical. Your communication, again, I mentioned earlier, eye contact, professional handshakes, paying attention to nonverbal cues, providing constructive feedback. When somebody poses a question, you need to be able to think critically on how to answer that question, and participation by paying attention. These are all critical things that you will need in client meetings when you're talking to a client or your boss, to be paying attention to hear what they say, because you may miss critical skills that are going to make you successful in an assignment at work, or something that you need to do for a client, or in a bid that you're putting in for a client. So it becomes really important that you learn to focus and then also communicate properly, as I mentioned earlier. Creativity, thinking outside the box. They're looking for that. They're looking for critical thinking. Again, the who, what, where, when, why, and how to answer questions. Obviously, empathy is a good one. They want everybody to be empathetic to what the other person is going through. So I've given you some examples when I've said, think about how someone would feel if you're copying their work, if they're copying your work and using it as their own. That's empathy, how somebody else would feel if something happened to them. They're looking for leadership skills, organizational skills, your ability to problem solve. Again, if you have a technology issue, that's problem solving. Resourcefulness. Again, I've given you many cues on resourcefulness, right? Resourcefulness is how to use the tools in your toolbox. So if you get stuck on something, reaching out to me, your success coach, the LCC librarians, the writing center, all of those are abilities for you to get something done and being resourceful about how you get it done. Strategic thinking. Teamwork is a big one, and I get it. No one likes to work in teams. It can be very frustrating. There's always somebody who has to take on a bulk of the responsibility. I get it, but you need to learn how to do it and be successful at it, because you're going to be doing it in the business world all the time. So better to learn how to do it well in school so that you will exceed and excel in the business world. And again, time management. I cannot overstress how important time management is to your success in school and in the business world. You have to learn how to remember what to do every day. You have to use calendars. And in my video that you're going to watch in this class, I show you my actual Franklin planner. Those were something that came out in the 1980s because our brains were exploding in the 1980s. And I am a Gen Xer. So I am a proud Gen Xer of all the things that I learned in the 80s that were really strict that led into my success for today. So please note that I am not a technology issue. If we go into technology issues, I am not a technology expert, as we're talking about the next topic. If you ask me how D2L, something in D2L works, or if you say I couldn't get this done, I cannot help you. I didn't build the software. I cannot answer your question. Your best resource for technology issues, either with your computer, with a software program, with D2L, with Connect, is to use the LCC help desk. They will be able to direct you to the resources if they can't help you yourself, but that's not going to prevent you from getting an assignment in. So that's why I stressed earlier, do your work early, because if you have a technology issue, that is not an excuse for not turning your work in on time. So again, make sure you use your resources when you have a problem with your computer. You are not living in a bubble. You have people around you that can help you. So use them wisely versus coming in and saying, oh, I'm sorry, Professor Keely, this was done late. I'm not going to accept it. So I've given you the LCC help desks. If you're using the McGraw-Hill products, I've given you their tech support desk that you can ask for help as well. So please make sure you use your resources. The next one is my grading policy. I have up to 14 business days from the date that they are due. 14 business days, again, do not include the weekends. I don't work on the weekends. So that means that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are the days I grade, and I have 14 days from the date that was due. So please make sure that you understand that when you're looking for your grades or when you're expecting your grades back. So now, the next point, similar, is checking your grades and your feedback. It is critical that when I give you your grades in the grade book that you go read my comments, because if you've done something wrong in your assignment or your discussion questions that caused you to lose points, I'm going to leave that feedback, and I leave a lot of feedback. I prefer to leave the feedback of great job, excellent job. But if you don't, I will be very detailed in what you did wrong. If you make that mistake over and over again, that is not my responsibility. You were given the information to make the correction on the next assignment, and if you didn't do that, then you will continue to be graded down for that same item. So please prevent yourself of the agony of going through that and just read through the comments. If you have any questions about my feedback, please let me know. I'm happy to clarify. If there is something that I didn't notice and you say, Professor Keely, did you check this, and this out? I'm happy to always go back and look at regrading something if I've missed something. I'm a human being as well. And I try to make sure that I'm very thorough and I follow my policies. So make sure that if you have a question that you reach out to me. And again, I'm happy to look at anything that you bring to my attention. And if I can make a change, I will. But if I can't, then I will explain to you why I can't. So that brings me to the next one, no late work policy. I am incredibly strict with this because I can't tell you how important it is in the business world to turn your work in on time. I spent most of my career doing what's called a request for proposal, and that is basically a lot of companies, in order to do business with them, you have to present them with sales proposals. And many of them have very strict policies on what the timing is, and sometimes they use tools, technology tools, where you have to submit it in the tool and it's got a timer on it. And if you miss that time, they will not accept your assignment. And in the 30 plus years I've worked in business, I proudly say I never missed a deadline because I made sure that I prepared in advance. I used my time management and I tried to get my work done on time. Now, I was working in teams and sometimes it sucked. And I remember one time it was the Henry Ford Health RFP. I had 30 seconds left and I was writing my own content because my teammates let me down. So I have the same experiences that you have. And again, everything that's in here is designed to help you be successful. And again, no late work policy is that there are men, and I have to be fair in all of these policies that I am implementing. So no late work policy means that everybody has either second jobs or they're on vacation or they might get sick or all the different reasons that could cause you to be late. So all I ask is that if you're going to be in late, you can contact me in advance. I'm not going to guarantee it will change my mind, but I'm more willing to give consideration if you notify me in advance than coming afterwards and saying, "Oh, I got this in late. I had this happen to me. Can I have credit?" So again, being time management, letting me know in advance because of good communication. Again, I'm not going to guarantee that it's going to change my mind, but you have a better chance at getting me to change my mind if you communicate with me in advance than if you communicate with me afterwards. So again, talking about strong communication, what does that mean? Again, communicate with me in advance. It's no different in school than if you were to not call into your employer and get a no call, no show, which will get you fired. So again, it's really important that you communicate in advance, whether you're going to miss class, if you have trouble completing an assignment, because again, in the business world, you can lose your job for that. So again, I'm trying to get you to learn how to communicate well and in advance in my classes and your other classes, because every time you do it, it becomes a habit and you're going to be more successful when you get into the business world if you have built successful habits in college. So the next one is business etiquette and respect levels. So one of the things that has happened in our society, and this is because of social media and texting, is that we have become way too informal in how we communicate with people. If you have never met somebody before, and I consider online classes where you haven't physically met me, you don't know me, you just know what I've decided to tell you, but you've never met me in person, that is not an occasion to be very informal with somebody. Let me give you an example at the college. If Dr. Robbins walks by me, even though he has an occasion told people to call him Steve, the respect level I afford is to call him Dr. Robbins. It took a lot of effort to become a doctor in his career, and you always afford people that respect. Now, if you meet with them and you build a relationship with them and they say, "Hey, just call me Steve," then you can call someone Steve. But until then, it's always Dr. Robinson. So the same thing happens with your boss. the same thing specifically happens with your clients. So you always lead in with a formal professional tone until you build a relationship with somebody, or you can see that their communication style is informal, and then you're going to mirror their relationship. But for this class, I'm trying to teach you formal writing. So please refer to me as Professor or Professor Keely and not anything else. So please read the syllabus to make sure that you understand the way I prefer to be communicated with. And if you want to be communicated with a certain way, please make sure you let me know, because obviously everybody makes mistakes, and I'm not necessarily going to correct somebody if they don't call me the right name. But it will be noted that if you ask me for consideration on something or you need help, it does factor into my consideration if you are violating my course policies, and calling me Professor or Professor Keely is part of my course policy. And again, it's there to train you to how to formally communicate in the business world. So as I mentioned earlier, moving to extra credit points, I do offer extra credit points in the class. I highly recommend you take advantage of them. I can't tell you the number of students that come to me after class, or at the beginning of class, or as class is ending, begging me where they can make up points. So my extra credit points are always open throughout the class. I announce them on D2L. Highly recommend. They may not look like a lot of points, but they will add up in the end. So they will either help you get to the next grade or help you not fall to a lower grade. So I highly recommend that you take advantage of the extra credit, because once the class is done, if you haven't done the extra credit, those points are now gone. And there may be an occasion where I have an event that I give you extra credit points. So if you don't go to that event and you don't look at your D2L, then you've missed them, then you can't redo those. So there's certain extra credit activities that are a one-time activity. And if you don't go or don't do them, you can't make up those extra credit points. So please make sure that you're always doing them. Again, it's a gift. And if you don't take advantage of it, then that's your fault. But don't come to me afterwards complaining because your grade's too low, or that you're a couple points from a B and you're looking at a C. I can't help you. Using your LCC resources. You've heard me say this all throughout this podcast, and it's buried everywhere in my syllabus. You have the gift in school of living in a bubble. We are trying to make sure that not only do you know the technical terms, but you are set for success in the business world. I've said it before. It is absolutely unforgiving and unrelentless in business and marketing. It is brutal, whether when you own your own company or whether you're working for somebody else. So the name of the game is to work efficiently, but also to use your resources around you. So to give you an example, if you struggle with writing and you don't have time to, let's say, proof your document, work with the LCC Writing Center. They can proof your document for you so that you know that what's submitted is the best possible version of your assignment. You didn't have to do the proofreading. You've done a third party. And in fact, in the publishing world, publishing books, they actually have editors that do proofreading separate from any other editor, because they know that sometimes the person who's writing it will miss things. So either use the technique of using and reading out loud your paper so that you can hear and edit with yourself, or use the LC Success Coach or the Writing Center or the librarians or a tutor. You have so many resources here at the school to ensure your success. So you should make sure that you use them so that every paper you turn in is the best possible version, that you can take pride in knowing that every answer that you submitted to me was the best possible answer that you can get. And again, that's going to help you in the business world, because every email, every proposal, every, case study that you write, every blog, every social, everything requires that you think it through critically and strategically, and that you communicate it properly. So learn to use your resources around you. Also, for the face-to-face classes, specifically, I do use audio recordings where I will tape the class. The reason for that is because I believe that sometimes, even if you're in a face-to-face class, it's always best to go back and listen to something. I do it myself. I've learned that that's how I've gotten to the point in my career where I know so much is because sometimes I will listen to the same documentary over and over and over and over and over again. And I even listen to professional lectures on YouTube. And I have found that for me to really embed the idea, I just sit and listen to it over and over again. So again, you are using your resources, which includes the audio recording. So even if you do go to a face-to-face class and you want to listen to the audio recordings again, it becomes important because sometimes I don't repeat the same case studies that I share. So let me give you an example. Your textbook was written by a very specific person or persons. They have their own unique set of ideas and experiences that form how they write the textbook. I told you earlier, I have won an American Marketing Association award. That is the highest award that you can win in the marketing industry. I have also won business awards. So my case studies and my experiences are going to be different than the people in your textbook. So what are case studies? They are ways to be able to help you understand a concept through practical application. So again, case studies are very important. So that's why I've learned and been very successful in my career by listening. Not just listening to my professors, but listening to the person in the cubicle next to me. They have different experiences sometimes, and I've learned a lot from listening to people in business at their experiences. And I've actually used that knowledge to help me get a better job or to do well in the job that I'm at. I borrow people's ideas all the time of how they have fixed a solution and go to my bosses and say, well, I know a colleague of mine who had done this in a previous job, and let's try it here. So I can't overemphasize the importance of listening and using audio recordings to help you. So also I post these on my YouTube channel, which is where everybody can access them. So if you, let's say, are in a different online class and you go out to my YouTube channel and you see that I have another marketing audio from a different class, absolutely go listen to it. Because again, there's case studies that I share that vary from class to class, depending on who I have in my class and their own experiences, and me trying to relate my experiences to those that are in my class. So that you're going to get a lot more information from the case studies in listening to the class. So if you're online, it's a way for you to listen to what goes on in the face-to-face class. If you miss class, you can go back and listen to a class. And again, if you are in a different class and you want to listen to an audio recording, you are more than welcome to. Also, your student electronic access to grades. So all of your grades are in D2L. Again, I have 14 business days from the time that assignment was due to grade your papers and your assignments and your discussion questions and your activities. So please make sure that you are looking at your grade book. You should not end up at the end of the semester and shocked about your grade. So if you have any questions about an assignment grade or your overall grade, please email me. Schedule a WebEx or an in-person meeting. I'm always happy to look at grades because obviously, while I'm very strict, I really want people to do well in my class. And I'm trying really hard to make sure that you are successful here in school, that you are successful when you transfer to a 4-year college, and that you're most importantly successful in your career. And these things that I have as really strict policies in my class are designed to help you in your career because I can see what you need to do because I've lived that world before and I know what it takes to succeed. And I'm trying to give you the benefit of learning from me as you learn from your other instructors who are trying to tell you how difficult it is in business and marketing. And again, don't think that like a psychologist isn't in business as well. Even the medical community is struggling right now because they are businesses. If you own your own practice and you're a chiropractor, you own your own business. So everybody needs to understand how to operate in business, and it is more competitive than it ever has been before. So a lot of what I put in these course policies are the key to success, and it doesn't have anything to do with, the textbook. These are a different set of success skills in addition to learning what about business and marketing and how you can use the technical terms and the case studies of other companies that have done certain things. These are also equally as important as what you're learning in the textbook and in the courses. So that's my course policies. I wanted to make sure that I over communicated with you, both in writing and, verbally what the course policy is. And again, I would love to meet the online students, either WebEx or In my face-to-face classes, you can come and meet with me. I have my office hours that are published. So I would like to, make sure I build that relationship with you so that, again, I can share in your successes, because there's no one that's going to be cheering harder when I can say excellent job and I give you a great, excellent grade. I celebrate your successes as well. And again, that's why my course policies are very strict. So please email me if you have any questions, and have a great day.